passed over forms of equations, parallel and perpendicular lines, and different shifts of equations, as well as key features. So we're going to go through this review together, and if you have any questions, please let me know. What is the slope-intercept form? Well, first of all, let's make a note. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, and that is on your formula chart. Of the line that passes through the point, -5, +9, so this is going to be our x1 and our y1, and is perpendicular. Remember, perpendicular is the opposite sign reciprocal slope to the graph y equals 5/4x minus 6. So the first thing we need to do is identify that perpendicular slope. Well, the slope here is 5/4, so it is positive. We need to change the sign. So now it is a negative, and we need to flip the fraction. So it is now -4/5. Then I have a slope and a point, so I need to use point-slope form, which is, again, on your formula chart. So now we're just going to plug in what we know. Remember, this first y stays a y. y1 is 9. Some of you are still flip-flopping when you use point-slope form, the x and the y, so be cautious there. Our new slope is a -4/5, parentheses, x stays an x, minus x1 is a -5. So a -5 is a positive. So now we need to go ahead and distribute so we can get to y equals. So y minus 9 is equal to -4/5 x. -4/5 times 5 is a -4. If you are unsure of that, you can always go to your calculator and plug that in. So we could say -4/5, parentheses, or just times. You don't actually need parentheses, times 5, -4. So don't be afraid to double check. We're going to add 9 to both sides to get that y by itself. Y equals -4/5 x plus 5. So to check this, we need to graph this equation, and this equation. That way we can make sure that we have put everything in correctly. These two equations should overlap when you put them into the calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my first one. 5/4x minus 6. I'm going to tab. Now, this one is not in y equals. I'll change that to a relation. So I'm going to delete and number 6. And then I can just type y minus 9 is equal to -4/5, parentheses, x plus 5. I can see that does appear to be perpendicular. And then I'm also going to put in this last one, y equals -4/5 x plus 5. I can see that these two do overlap, so those are converted correctly, and it is perpendicular. So we did a good job there. Number 2, represent a line that passes through the point. So we have 2 points in 4 ways. So slope-intercept, standard, and 2-point slope form. So we have 2 different coordinates here. So remember, slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. Standard, ax plus by equals c. Remember that those can only be integers. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. And I have 2 coordinates. So the first thing I need to do is find my slope. So I can say x1, y1, x2, y2. So my slope formula says y2 minus y1. It's a -5, so it becomes a positive, over x2 minus x1. So my slope is 5/2. I have 2 points, so I'm going to go ahead and start with my 2-point slope forms. And I can say y, I'm just going to use this first one on the first one. So y plus 5 is equal to 5/2 x. I could put -0. It's not really necessary, but we could. If I'm going to use my second point, y minus 0, again, not necessary, but okay. 5/2 x minus 2. And if we look at this, this is a 0. If I cover this up, this is now in slope-intercept form because we put a 0 here. Okay, so we just would have to distribute. So I'm going to change this to slope-intercept. So y equals, I'm going to go ahead and distribute 5 over 2x. 5 over 2 times a negative 2 is a negative 5, which you should have identified this as your y-intercept. This is actually an x-intercept or a 0. And then we can go to standard form, and you can use either of these methods to go to standard form. I'm going to use my slope-intercept. I do have a fraction there, and I know in standard form I cannot have a fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply everything by the denominator to get rid of that. 2y equals 5x minus 10. I'm going to move my x to the same side as the y. Negative 5x plus 2y equals negative 10. And I know that a needs to be positive, so I'm just going to multiply everything by negative 1. And I'm going to write it over here because I've run out of room. 5x minus 2y equals a positive 10. So here's my standard, my slope-intercept, and my 2-point slopes. Now I would definitely, in my calculator, go ahead and graph those to make sure that everything overlaps and I did it correctly. So I'm already in a relation. So y plus 5 is equal to 5 over 2, parentheses, x minus 0. I can say y minus 0 is equal to 5 over 2, x minus 2. Again, it overlaps. Yay, we did well there. I have y equals 5 over 2, x minus 5. And then my standard form is 5x minus 2y is equal to a positive 10. All of them overlap. If I had one that did not overlap with these others, I would know that I had converted it incorrectly. Washing machine repairman charges $75 travel fee plus $58 for each hour. Each is a multiplier word. To diagnose and repair a machine, write an equation that represents C, the charge for the repairman for H hours. So we're not using X and Y here. You can start off with X and Y as long as you replace with the appropriate variable. So it says he charges. So that's going to be C equals 75. He's only charging that 75 once, so that's our B. 58 is going to be our M. 58 each hour. And all you needed to do was write that equation. Given the equation, negative 8x plus 3y equals negative 30, what is the slope-intercept? Again, y equals mx plus b. So we need to get y by itself, so we're going to move our 8x by doing the inverse. So 3y equals 8x minus 30, and we're going to divide everything by 3. Some of you are writing one fraction bar and 1 3, and you are only simplifying one part. If you write it underneath both, that makes it a little easier. Y equals 8/3 x minus 10. And again, just like we've been practicing in class, graph them both. Negative 8x plus 3y is equal to a negative 30. There's my line. And y equals 8 over 3x minus 10. Oh, I did not hit tab, so none of that went in. Y equals 8 over 3x minus 10. They overlap. We're good to go. What is the slope? You have a couple of ways to find this. Probably the easiest way is exactly what we did up here. Change it to y equals. And then you will be able to see that slope. Divide everything by a negative form. Make sure you take your sign with you. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So I can see that my slope here is 5 over 4. Number 6, what are the coordinates of the 0? Okay, so 0, we talked about this word a while back. This is our x-intercept and our y-intercept. So remember, your x-intercept is the value of x when y is 0. The y-intercept is the value of y when x is 0. So we're going to solve this, and we're going to put 0 here, and we're going to put 0 here. So for the x-intercept, I am putting 0 in place of y. For the y-intercept, I'm going to put 0 in place of x. And then I'm going to solve for the leftover letter. So this, anything times 0, this is essentially going to go away. So I have 7x is equal to 25. Divide by 7. X is equal to, I can leave it 25 over 7. I can say 7 goes into 25 3 times with 4 7s left over. So that is a very, very ugly 0 or x-intercept. Here, that goes away. Divide by -5. Negative divided by a positive is a negative. So now my y-intercept, 0, -5. If I wanted to, I could go ahead and graph this. And I could say, excuse me, I apologize, 7x minus 5y is equal to 25. And I can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, -5, 1, 2, 3, in between 3, this is about 3.5, so we probably did that correctly. You cannot do Control T when you are in a relation, so that is not going to help you. But you can graph it and double check it. Write an equation of a line that passes through -5, 0, also known as a 0 or an x-intercept, and is parallel, so the slope is the same. The line represented by y equals 2/5 x plus 2. So my parallel slope is going to still be 2/5, and I have this coordinate. So we're going to start with point slope y minus 0, not really necessary, but we'll write it. 2/5 mx minus a -5 becomes a positive. So now I can distribute y. I'm not even going to write this again. Y equals 2/5 x. 2/5 times 5 is just 2. And again, we shall graph it to make sure that it is in fact parallel. So 2/5 x plus 2, I'm just going to put my equals y on the end. Oh, I am not. Alright, let's try that again. Y equals 2/5 x plus 2. These are actually the exact same line. So we solved it correctly. I just apparently have a wrong point, but that's okay. So these are identical. So it will be parallel. I'll make a note to change that for next year. But we did convert it correctly. On the back, write an equation of a line that contains these 2 points. Notice that this is a y-intercept. So you need to first find your slope, y2 minus y1, which is a negative, so it becomes a positive, over x2 minus x1, so 10 over -4. That does simplify to 5 over -2. So now we need to choose a point. It doesn't matter. This is a y-intercept. So I could write y equals -5 over 2x minus 2, and I'm good to go because I was given a y-intercept. If you wanted to do point slope, y minus 8 is equal to -5 over 2x plus 4, because it was a negative, and go ahead and do those steps. -5 over 2x, this becomes -10, and add 8. -10 and 8 is in fact -2. You could do that as well. What are the coordinates of the y-intercept of the line represented by this equation? So we are already in point slope, so we're just going to distribute y minus 3 equals 2 over 7x. If this is intimidating to you, again, don't stress. You can put it into your calculator. 2 over 7, you can also do top times top, bottom times bottom like you learned in 6th grade. Or you could cross reduce. This comes out to a very nice -3 if you wanted to use your calculator. And then you could add 3 to both sides. Y equals 2 over 7x plus 0, where this is our b value. So the y-intercept, in fact, is the origin. If we wanted to check that, we could graph it. Y minus 3 is equal to 2 over 7 parentheses x minus 21 over 2. And I can see that does, in fact, go through the origin. Schools holding a craft fair fundraiser. Artist donates to rent a table at the fair. In addition, each artist must donate for each item sold, each. So there's going to be some multiplying there. Where this is going to be our B, and this is going to be our M. The table shows the amount the artist will donate depending on the number of items they sell. Which statement best represents the relationship between the items sold and the amount donated? So here is your y-intercept. So this is going to be your donation for the table. And then you can find your slope. So we are going to 29 to 33 is 4 for every 2 items. So our slope, 4 over 2 means $2 per 1 item. So I could even write my equation here, y equals 2x plus 25, where y is the amount donated and x is the item sold. So let's see which of these are true based on this. The more items sold, the more money donated. Yes, because this is a positive. The amount donated per item is 4. No, this is not true because it's 4 over 2. So in fact, this should be $2. So that one is not true. The cost of any item sold is 25 times the amount plus 2. So that would look like this, 25 times the amount plus 2. That does not match our equation that we wrote. They have inverted the y-intercept and the slope, so this one is not true. Cost of any amount donated is 25 plus the number of items sold times 2. So 25 plus the number of items sold times 2. That, yes, does match. So we can see that 1 and 4 are in fact true in this situation. In the sequence numbers, a sub 3 is 2, a sub 4 is 8, a, that should be a 5, a sub 5 is 14, a sub 6 is 20, and a sub 7 is 26. Based on this information, write a slope-intercept equation to find the nth term. I would in fact make a table here where we have n is our x and a sub n is our y. So at the third term we are at 2, the fourth we are at 8, the fifth we are at 14. You could keep going. And in fact we could find our slope this way. So our slope is 6 over 1. If I wanted to go back to y equals, I have a couple of different options here. I could work back to 0. I could, since I want a slope-intercept equation, I can pick a coordinate and I can plug in what I know. This is my x and my y. So if I have 2 is equal to my slope is 6 times 3 plus b. 2 equals 18 plus b minus 18. So my b is negative 16. So in fact my equation is y equals 6x minus 16 because I have a slope and now I have a y-intercept. You can in fact graph this if you prefer. To double check your work, just go into y equals, type in the answer that you got, 6x minus 16. And because I started over in a regular y equals, I can do Control T to look at my table, and I can see, in fact, 3, 2, 4, 8, 5, 14, 6, 20, 7, 26, and see that my table does match. The student's graph f of x equals x, so remember this is our linear parent function. And g of x is equal to f of x, so the parent function, minus 5 on the same grid. Write a statement that describes how the graphs of f and g are related. Well, you should know that this is your k and your hk. So remember we have x minus h plus k. We don't have any parentheses, and insiders lie and all of that. So this should say that graph G is 5 units below graph F. And if we wanted to double check that again, we could go to our calculator and graph them both. We could say f of x equals x. There's our parent function, tab, and then we have x minus 5, and I can see, in fact, that it did shift down 5. I hope this is helpful. Let us know if you have any questions.